So I'm going to let her introduce herself to you and give you the background that she wants to share.
Hi guys, my name is Leah. I'm going to start off with a question. Raise your hand if you want to make money. Okay. Raise your hand if you want to be happy. Okay. Now if I asked you to choose between money or happiness, raise your hand if you'd be able to make that choice. If you'd be able to choose between money or happiness. Okay. 5 years ago, when I was in my second year of college, all I wanted to do was not be poor anymore. I wanted it so bad that if you asked me to choose between money or happiness, I would have said money. Not because I was greedy or I thought that money could buy happiness, but because I believed that a certain amount of money was necessary before happiness was attainable. Not the kind of money that makes you rich, just the kind that allows you to survive. Enough money to not be hungry or homeless, to feel safe and secure. When you're constantly worried about your basic needs of survival being met, the need for money trumps the desire for happiness. I wanted it more because I needed it more, or so I thought. Let me tell you where that took me. I've known I was poor for basically my entire life. People don't always believe me when I say this, but I grew up in the South Bronx, in the housing projects on Cortlandt Ave. Single mom, Puerto Rican family, third generation of living in that cycle. I remember as early as elementary school, my mom used to lecture me and my sister about the need for us to break that cycle. There's one moment that replays in my head every time I need to remind myself of my motivation. I was in third grade. I came home with an 80 on a test. It was a science test. The next morning, I was getting ready for school, sitting at the kitchen table with my sister, eating Eggo waffles, and my mom stormed into the kitchen with the test in her hand. And she looks right at me and she goes, "Leah, what is this?" Pointing at the 80 at the top of the paper. And I'm thinking, no big deal, people in my class get 80s all the time. But she went on, "How do you think you're gonna get into college with this?" I don't think many 8-year-olds think about college. But she continued, "You know I can't pay for it, Leah. You need to get scholarships. How are you gonna get scholarships with a B?" She was serious. To my mom, it wasn't just a B on a test. It was the possibility of failure and never making it out of the inner city. I think that's the day it clicked for me, the day that my mom's lectures on our financial distress turned into my motivation for future success. From that day forward, I never brought home another B on a test. I did exactly what my mom expected of me, not because she told me to, but because I wanted to. I learned to love school because I didn't see it as a burden, I saw it as an opportunity, as a way out. Education was the great equalizer. And as my mom constantly reminded us, education was the key to breaking the cycle. And according to her, breaking the cycle was my responsibility. So I took that responsibility and I carried it with me all the way from the South Bronx to the Ivy League. And it was a constant struggle. We went from apartment to apartment, from eviction notice to car repossession, from public assistance to food stamps, from foreclosure to homelessness, and a lot of other nonsense in between. But the harder my life got, the stronger my motivation grew. Sometimes, however, the pressure becomes too much. Life gets too hard and we can't take it anymore. One negative thing happens after another, and we think that it can't possibly get any worse. When we get to the point where we just want to give up, that's the ultimate test. And the way that we respond to that test is what separates the losers from the winners. The I can'ts from the I can's. The people that say, "Why me?" from the people that say, "Try me." From the victims that use their circumstances as an excuse, from the victors that use it as their motivation. In order to be successful, you have to be resilient through the storms. You can't sit there and wait for good things to happen. You have to make them happen. You have to take what you got and use it to get what you want. So for me, that test came when I was a junior in high school. when my family and I became homeless, when the house that we lived in went into foreclosure and it was being taken from us, when we woke up one morning to an eviction notice on the door saying you have to be out in 24 hours. It doesn't matter that you have 4 children and nowhere to go. So we packed up the U-Haul truck for what was my 11th time moving. And I got dropped off at school, and I spent the day there not knowing where I was gonna sleep that night. We ended up checking into what they call an extended stay hotel, which is about half the size of this room, 2 queen-size beds, a refrigerator, a microwave, and a really tiny bathroom. And that's where all 6 of us lived, my mom, my stepdad, and 3 of my sisters, for almost a year. That was during my second half of my junior year and the first half of my senior year, the time that I was applying to college. But I didn't let that hinder me. I used it as my inspiration and my motivation, and it made for a hell of a college essay. And within the next year, I became valedictorian of my high school. I passed 10 AP tests. I got a near perfect score on my SAT, and I became one of the first students in my high school to get into an Ivy League university. Fast forward through 4 not so easy years of college, and now I work at a global corporate bank, making more money than I've ever needed. So I did it, I made it, right? I set these goals for myself and I accomplished every one of them. But how did I do it? I think there's 2 main reasons. 1, I knew why I wanted to. And 2, I believed that I could. So, motivation and belief. These are the 2 things I want to talk to you about. Let's start with motivation. So there's this guy named Simon Sinek. He's an author and a motivational speaker, and he came up with this idea of the golden circle. Basically, there's 3 layers that correspond to the way that we think, act, and communicate. The innermost layer is the why, our motivation behind our actions. The outermost layer is the what, the things that we do. We'll get to the middle in a little bit, but let's break this down. Simon argues that most people can easily articulate what they do. I go to school, I work here, I volunteer there, I'm part of this club, I play this sport, but so few of us can communicate why we do it. Society rewards us for the things that we do to the point that we're conditioned to believe that we need to constantly do in order to succeed. The why behind our actions is so rarely acknowledged that often we don't even think about it ourselves. But what if I told you that action is nothing without motivation? That in order to effectively dedicate ourselves to do something, and better yet, accomplish something, we need to know why we're doing it in the first place. We need to think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Everybody with me?
Yes.
Okay. So we need to figure out our why. How do we do that? I'll tell you. Know your story. I don't want to know what you do. I want to know who you are. I want to know what shaped you. Tell me about your past. Tell me about your origins. What do you care about? What are you passionate about? What drives you? What if I came in here and introduced myself as a corporate banker that graduated from Columbia University? You would know that I'm smart and that I have a good job, but you would know nothing about who I am. Most people in my situation came from the upper middle class. They went to private school, they have parents that work in finance. If I didn't tell you my story, you would have never thought the projects in the South Bronx. You would be less able to connect with me and less inclined to listen to me. you would have been like, nah, she's privileged. She don't know where we come from or what we've been through. She don't understand the struggle or how to rise above it, but guess what I do? I come from where you come from, and I'm here because I need to tell you that that doesn't limit how far you go. No one gave me the resources to get out of the hood. I used my mind and my heart. I envisioned it and I made it a reality. I don't care where you are. Use what you got to get where you want. That's why story is so important. It reminds you what you want and why you want it. Even when I was at Columbia and I would tell people that I'm going into finance, I found myself needing to instantly tell them why I was doing it. Like, no, I'm not greedy. I really just don't want to be poor anymore. I want to know what it's like to have enough money to live and not just to survive. That's why I'm going into finance. And that little explanation served not only as a means to connect and to make me seem more human, but it served as a constant reminder to myself of my motivation. Really get in touch with your story and you will find your why. Find your why and it will lead you to what you want. But while you're searching, remember this. Your story doesn't exactly define you, and it definitely doesn't limit who you will become. It is simply the foundation on which we build. Listen to this. You are not what's happened to you. You are how you overcome it. So the ability to overcome, that's directly related to my next point. Everybody still with me? Okay. I'm gonna ask you another question. If I asked you to name all the things you believed in, how long would it take you to name yourself? Belief in yourself is the majority of what makes up the how. The bridge between the why and the want. The ability to turn motivation into action depends on our self-confidence. On the ability to say, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can, until you actually believe that you can and you do it. Because let me tell you something, the only limits are the ones you set yourself. It's the ability to say, I am amazing. I don't know if anybody told you this today, but you are amazing. I don't know if you told yourself this today, but you are amazing. Not because of what you do, but because of who you are, because of everything that makes you special. You are not your test score or your grade. You are not where you come from or what you've been through. You are how you've overcome it. You are your grit and your resilience. You are your talents and your passions. You're your motivations and your dedications. You're your commitment to coming to class. You're your commitment to getting your degree and your commitment to progressing yourself. Become aware of how special you are, and nothing will be able to stop you. So how do we create that self-confidence? How do we start believing in ourselves? Number one, focus on the positives. Never say anything negative about yourself. And if somebody else is bringing negativity into your life, let that go. Negativity is like a disease that manifests in your mind and clouds your thoughts. The key is to gaining control of your thinking by becoming aware of where your mind goes when it wanders. Instead of focusing on what you lack, appreciate all that you have. Instead of exaggerating your flaws, celebrate and brag about your strengths. Instead of complaining about problems, come up with solutions. Turn your hardships into inspiration and turn your struggles into motivation. Your mind is one of the most powerful things. If you train it to focus on the positives, then your outcomes will reflect your thinking. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. Stay positive. Number two, acknowledge your progress. Too often, We stress about how far we still need to go in order to reach our goal, to the point where we fail to acknowledge how far we've already come. We fail to think about and remember the day that we dreamt about everything that we have now. Give yourself space to be proud of how far you've come. Celebrate all of your successes, no matter how small. Yes, we should have the idea of the goal in the back of our head, but our main focus needs to be on the process. The small steps that we take every day and everything that we accomplish and learn along the way. Pat yourself on the back. You guys have come a long way. But also remember that you didn't come this far to only come this far. Number 3, embrace the failures as lessons learned. I'm sure we've heard the quote, there's no such thing as failure, only learning. If we call every setback a failure, then we start pitying ourselves, and we start using it as an excuse. But if we call it a learning opportunity, then we embrace it as just that. If we never got knocked down, we wouldn't have the strength that we do today. We wouldn't be driven the way that we are today. Your failures have gotten you just as far as all of your strengths. You need to be grateful for all of them. Number 4, live up to your full potential. Because as a Bronx Tale so perfectly put it, the worst thing in life is wasted talent. Remember when I accomplished the goal of breaking the cycle? When I got my big finance job and I finally had enough money to live and not just survive? Well, I'll tell you that about a year after that, I became depressed. The money wasn't fulfilling me because the reason for obtaining it, my why, wasn't there anymore. I needed to find something else to be passionate about. The minute that I no longer had to worry about the money, my mind instantly went to happiness, and I realized that I didn't have it, and all I wanted to do was figure out how to get it. So it went back to this idea of passion and figuring out what I was passionate about and fulfilling that. I used to think I was passionate about making money, but no, money was just a means to obtain the freedom to think about what I really wanted to do, what I really cared about. So I searched, and I realized that I really loved teaching. So what did I do? I became a tutor and a mentor for high schoolers in the inner city. I've worked with hundreds at this point for different volunteer organizations all over the city, teaching them math, helping them get into college, and most importantly, watching them succeed, because that's what fulfills me. I got really into yoga and mindfulness, and I wanted to bring that idea of controlling your mind and setting it up for success to children. I found an organization that teaches yoga and mindfulness to children, and now I'm getting certified to do that because that's what I care about. I realized that I was really passionate about nonprofit organizations that help the community. I switched teams at my job from the team that made the most money, the team that would give $3 billion loans to Verizon to buy Yahoo, to the team that gives money to nonprofit organizations, to the team that gives money to the affordable housing organizations that build affordable housing in my community in the South Bronx, because that's what I care about. I'm going to business school next year because I want to open up a nonprofit organization that helps kids in the inner city. I'm going to go into the field of social impact investing because they take money and give it to the organizations that are doing good with it. It was never about the money. It was about having enough to fulfill passions. And that's where the happiness lies. So these are my points. Unleash your why, and you will find your way. Believe in yourself and trust your path. No two journeys are the same, even if you have the same whys and the same whats. No two journeys are the same. So you can't compare yourself to the person sitting next to you. You can only compare yourself to the person you were yesterday. And as long as you stay hungry, you'll keep moving forward. I just want to leave you with something that I wrote a couple of months ago that I think summarizes everything that I was trying one goal at a time, plans to achieve them all. If you want to succeed, get up each time you fall. Even if you're brought down, stay on track. Don't let your mind focus on the things you lack. Become a warrior, fight for your cause. Convince yourself that the world is yours. Believe you can achieve and you're bound to succeed. Not just money and riches, it's not about the greed. Wealth and knowledge and experiences and lessons learned. The reward is more fulfilling when it's something you earned. So keep on keeping on. Hard work isn't easy. Get above the storm clouds where it's always sunny and breezy. Aim for the stars, take a pit stop on the moon, acknowledge your progress, and enjoy the view. But the universe is endless, so don't let your journey stop. Your mind will always rise if you're reaching.